Me once again for another night of Facebook Live. As you can see, I have my beautiful co-host with me tonight, Miss Demetrius Bills.
Hello, everyone.
Also, I want to give thanks and recognition to those that are joining me on the replay from YouTube and or SoundCloud. Tonight, we want to talk about credit. And again, all this week, we're just talking about topics that are selected and or chosen by our audience, our viewers. So tonight, it's all about credit. And so I had to get some help with this one, guys, because building credit and learning about finances and all this good stuff, it is new for me. I am on my journey and I am making progress, but sometimes you just got to get a little reinforcement.
All right.
So, Miss Demetrius Bills, she specializes in assisting people with uh, beginning to think about credit. And so tonight we're just going to pick her brain and get some expertise in this subject matter. If you have a comment and or a question, feel free to leave it in the comment section and we'll try our best to make sure that your question is addressed. Also, as you're logging on to join us tonight, go ahead and like and share this video so that others on your timeline can join in the conversation with us as well. All right. So, nevertheless, Miss Bills, we'll let you open up with uh, kind of the direction you want to lead us into tonight.
Well, good night, everyone. Glad you're tuning in with us. Um, I have a few little outlines that I want to talk about. Um, my first experience with credit, I was a teenage mother, and I would go to the loan companies uptown and get loans to make sure my children had Christmas. And at one point, I was working with Choctaw Memorial Hospital, only making $5.90 an hour in Central Supply. And I got to the point to where I could not afford to pay those loans back. So I just let them, hey, take me to court or whatever they had to do to get the money, which never recovered. Anyhow, once I come into knowledge of how important credit was, I had spoke with a guy by the name of Jim Wallace that was selling a house, and I told him I wanted to buy that house so bad, and he was like, "Well, what's your credit score like?" I said, "You really don't want to know that." And he's like, "Well, I got somebody that I can get to help you with that." And I said, "Cause I really want this house." And so he said, he led me to a gentleman in Edmond, Oklahoma, and the guy started fixing my credit. And thanks to Jim Wallace, he fixed my credit, and I didn't have to pay him a dime. God is good. Then, as my credit started building, I was told by another friend to go to First United Bank and talk to Sean Francis. Well, my credit score was only about 423 or something like that, and that it was very low. And because he knew another friend, he gave me the opportunity to borrow $1,000, and for me to build that credit worthiness with him, give me opportunity to pay it back. And I did just that. And I grew with First United Bank. After Sean Francis left, Philip Cove become my banker, and I had to build another relationship with him to get my credit, keep my credit going.
Okay, let me just interrupt here just a minute. So you did mention that you borrowed first from loan company,
Yes.
and then uh, to a bank. You start doing business with the bank.
Yes.
I've mentioned something like that before in the past in some of the videos. So can you tell the audience tonight what is the difference between borrowing from a payday loan type of place and the bank? What is the difference between that?
Well, me personally, I feel like the banks, institutions are always better to borrow from, because when you borrow from the loan companies, sometimes you're paying double what you're paying, and the interest rate is so high on it. And with the bank, you build that relationship, that rapport with the people, the bankers, the presidents, and it's to me is a long lasting opportunity to, if you want to purchase a house or if you want to purchase a vehicle, you got that relationship with your banker and you can go in and ask, for assistance. And the interest rates are sometimes better. They're always better than the loan companies' interest rates.
Okay. Let's dive in tonight. So where do you want to start when we're talking about credit? Where do we start? Say my credit is not the best, but it's something that I'm thinking about, especially during these economic times that we're dealing with right now. What's a good place for me to start to just get an idea of which direction I need to move?
First of all, you need to go to the annualcreditreport.com. It is free once a year. Pull all three of your credit reports, and you need to go over those credit reports and make sure that what's on there are your something that you applied for, and make sure they're yours. And if they're not yours, then you need to dispute them with with all three credit bureaus, and that's Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. And all three of them may not have the same report on there because different people, different creditors report to different bureaus. So you may have to dispute something on one that you don't have to dispute on the other. But it's still always good to send a dispute letter to all three credit bureaus.
So what if I'm not really tech savvy? What kind of resources local people or can they contact you? What kind of resources do you know that's available or programs to where maybe if I'm not tech savvy and really don't know the steps to go into that website, what can I do to also take steps to getting to where you're talking about obtaining that report and uh, looking at what's on it and making the corrections?
Google.com is your friend. YouTube is your friend. Uh, so a lot of times I did a lot of research on how to dispute something off my credit. So I would go and I would search Google and I would read and look at different options to write in, and then after so many, I think maybe 30 days or something like that, if they do not respond back to you after you send a dispute letter, then you write back in or call in and they have to take that off of your credit. So
And that's good information to know because I didn't know. I noticed that sometimes, when you go and pull up a credit report, there's things that's been on there for years and years and years that maybe, we've even forgotten about. But when it's on there, how does that affect our credit just being on there, even whether or not it's been taken care of or not?
too many inquiries on your credit report brings down your score tremendously. Uh, Too many inquiries, your payment history, um, too many credit cards. Like myself, I think I had 15 at one time, and because my credit score had built up, I'm like, oh, I thought it was, hey, I got this credit, my credit is good, so now I'll just go apply for every credit card that I thought I could get. And so I went and applied, and like I said, I done had every credit card I could think of, from J.C. Penney's to Macy's to Dillard's to Children's Place, Sears, Lowe's, Home Depot, First United Bank credit card, Bank First credit card, and they would give me a credit limit of $5,000. So if you do 15 times 5,000, so guess how much debt I accumulated. So it's very, very important to be wise when you are applying for credit cards, because you will be upside down. And another thing, your debt to ratio is very important. I don't care, you can have a credit score of 850 if you want to, but if your debt to ratio, meaning when I say debt to ratio, that means if your income is not enough to sustain you, then your debt to ratio is too high. And then you cannot purchase anything from the bank. So I don't care if you make $60,000, but you have a debt. You make $60,000 a year, and you paying $50,000 out on debt. then your debt to ratio is too high and you won't be able to go to get anything from the bank. So we have to really, really watch our debt to ratio. My banker, Tom White, he always get on me about my debt to ratio. He's like, you sign your name on everything for everybody. So that's another thing, guys. If you are looking to purchase a vehicle, if you are looking to purchase a car, do not co-sign for anyone, okay? If you are looking to purchase a vehicle or a car, because that matters. Regardless, if they're paying that payment, it's still under your name, under your credit. So we have to be very wise when it comes to allowing somebody, you co-signing for someone else. So that's very important.
So even if you co-sign, that is just like you as the signer taking on that responsibility for that loan, because the person obviously couldn't get it on their own recognizances. So that responsibility in the end falls on you, correct?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. If that person do not make that payment, you make that payment. If you don't want your credit score to fall, or if you don't want bills to be late. So you are responsible, regardless of what they say when you sign those papers. You are responsible for that note.
As the signer. As the co-signer.
As the co-signer, you're responsible for that note.
Wow, it's such good information, because it's information that I don't believe I knew the importance of it all and the effects that it has on our credit. So another thing, you mentioned about having too many credit cards, and I'm assuming that if we have the credit cards, we are using them and charging them. What is a healthy limit to utilize a credit card with a balance of, say, 5,000? You said your balance, your limits were 5,000. So what would be a good utilization of that card without it impacting so much on our credit score? Because sometimes we think, since we have a $5,000 limit, we need to just max it out and utilize it like that. So kind of give me an idea of what a healthy range of using a credit card with a $5,000 limit.
You never, ever want to max your credit card out. Trust me, I'm a living witness. If you go purchase something for $100 and your payment on that $100 is $20, you might as well pay the whole $100, because if you're just paying the minimum amount, that money is drawing interest. And some of those credit cards is 26.9, 25 point whatever. So you have to be very careful with maxing those credit cards out. I did that before and had to go to the bank and borrow money and pay all of them off and have them shredded right there in front of my banker. Okay? So be very wise when you use those credit cards. I'm serious. I kept telling myself, I'm not getting in this again. I'm not getting in this again. But you have to be very limited. You don't have to have 15 credit cards. You can have one major credit card, whether it's a Masters, American Express, or a Visa, and use one of those credit cards to maintain what you need. And like I said, don't just pay the minimum. If you can, pay double what the minimum is, and you will see the decrease in your credit card in the payment a month. Say, for instance, some of them give you a 6 months no interest. If you can pay that credit card off within that 6 months, I advise you to pay it off within that 6 months. You will save a lot of money, okay, by doing that. And after that 6 months is over, you may need to shred the cards, because if you use it again, that interest, that 26 point whatever 9, is going to start accumulating if you don't pay the whole bill at one time. So be very limited, be very wise, and make sure you pay all of the credit card off at one time. And it is good to have a credit card, because anything can happen. You can have an emergency at home, need a hot water heater. You can your car can break down, and you out of town somewhere, you can use your credit card to repair your car. You may have a blowout, need a tire. That credit card is good for that. But make sure you use it wisely. Don't do like me, because I go into the department store and I see a MK purse and it's $200. I want that purse, okay? I have been very wise here lately when it comes to just shopping, because I shop out of depression, okay? So I love to shop, but I'm doing a lot better with that. So
Well, and this is why we're here. We want to help reestablish healthier behaviors and healthy relationships, especially as it relates to our money, because we know that these times that we've had here in 2020 has been difficult, and it is that we have to help one another. We have to talk about these things. These are things that people don't talk about. You know, we see people with all the glam and the bling and all that, and it looks good, but there's a price tag that go along with everything that we consume, guys. And so we have to shift this mindset from being consumers to be wiser consumers, but also producers, so that we can produce and generate income and build on these things like our credit, so that we can set the legacy and a new standard for our families. Because living in poverty, it is what it is, but we do not have to continue to have the poverty mindset. Even with the lowest income, we can make simple, practical changes and change the direction of our financial futures. Miss Bills, what else do you have to share with us tonight? You've given us such great information, and what else can we take from this conversation tonight?
my thing, I would suggest, if you are wanting to purchase a big item, I suggest that if you get paid weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, however you get paid, that you set that money aside and let it add up until you get that enough money to make a large purchase that will save you in the long run from having notes or anything like that. A way to save money is to don't eat out all the time. Um, if you think you need it, you 9 times out of 10 you don't. So you can put that money back up. If you want to get your nails done, your toes done, your eyelashes done, that's money that can go toward what you're looking to purchase. Back in 2006, maybe, I think it was 2006. Um, I had a mind to build, and so I started saving my money when I was working at Red River Counseling, and I started putting back, so much a month because I wanted to build a house. And at that time, I didn't have a lot of acquired debt and this and that, so I started putting back at a different banking account that I didn't have a credit card to, and I knew the banks closed at 5 o'clock, so I couldn't go get money from the bank. So that was a way that I challenged myself. So when I got paid, I would always go put money in that bank and leave it. And even if I needed money, I still wouldn't go. I would tell myself that account don't exist. And so I saved enough money till I could get my house built. And I also contracted with different people. I was my own contractor. So I got good labor, but cheap labor. So if you always do your research, you can find good help for little or nothing. And then also I had people that seen that I was trying to do something, and they stepped in and was like, oh, I'll do that for you for free. So you just don't never know when you try and step out how many people will help you in that process. So I let it be made known, and it happened. So I'm very grateful that I followed, did what took put my plan on paper and followed my plan out. Because your plan comes in your mind, you have to put it on paper, and when you see that paper every day, eventually you'll start doing something with it. And that's what I did. I was like, okay, I sketched my own little floor plans out. That was my first step. Didn't know anything about building, but I sketched it and I said, this is how I want my house. And today I have that house. after doing that house debt free, didn't owe a dime at the bank. I turned around and I took that house and I borrowed against that house to build my second house, which I don't have a note on to this day. And I'm also in the process of building my third house. So you have to be wise. You have to put back money. You have to get connected with the right people.
So what I heard you say was you had to make some sacrifices initially. Initially, you had to make some financial sacrifices so that you can attain the goals that you set for yourself in your financial future, correct?
Correct. Yes.
So it just, we know how important goals are. And guys, if you're sitting there thinking, well, I can't do that, I'm a single parent. Well, did she not share with you that she was a single parent as well, guys? It is all about educating yourself, establishing better relationships with your money, and planning, setting those goals. You can't, we can get out here and go in the car all day long if we don't have nowhere to go, and we're just all over the place. You know what I'm saying? So we have to have a map, a blueprint for our life, guys, so that we move toward the things that we keep in front of us. Home ownership is possible for you. Everything that you set, owning your own business, all that. But it all comes back, regardless, to your finances. And that credit is closely related to your financial relationships, guys. So we know the importance. Also, she brought up some nuggets in what she was saying. The importance of community. Having good people around you that are willing to wrap their arms around you and just support everything you do, and be willing that even if they cannot help, they would have someone that they know that they're willing to refer you to. And that's important. Do you know that a good community is just important as having $1 million worth of finances?
That's right.
So any last words for the audience tonight?
Another thing I would suggest is monitoring your credit daily. Credit Karma is out there. I would suggest that you monitor your credit. Go on Credit Karma, is free. Check it daily because you may have some inquiries that are not yours that you may want to dispute. Be very alert because there's always somebody out there that is looking to scam and this and that. So you always want to make sure you keep your credit checked.
All right, guys, we do hope that you've enjoyed this session tonight.
I do have another thing I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Another important thing about your credit, as I found this out, is that when you go and apply for jobs, a lot of times you don't get those. Something happened.
It's still alive to keep talking.
Oh, a lot of times you don't get those jobs is because your credit score is not good. If you go and try to apply at a bank and you are turned down, 9 times out of 10 it's because your credit score is not good. Credit score tells a lot about you. If you keep your credit score good, then they know that you'll be good at the job that you apply for. Mm-hmm. So you have to be considerate of that. Also, with me when I was working for Small Business Administration, they do a credit check on you as well as a background check. And the reason why they do a credit check on you is because if you're traveling, they have to apply for a credit card. And that credit card has limits, and your credit score has to be a certain credit to get a credit card through them or through the bank that they use. Mm-hmm. So it's very important, for job reasons and for, for personal use.
Wow, that is some good information to know. That people judge you by your credit score. So the question to ask yourself tonight is, how do you want potential employers to see you? And we also know that when you own a small business yourself, if you're not managing your personal finances and managing that well, then it's certainly going to affect the business side of it too. Um, guys, we do hope that you have enjoyed this video tonight. We are having some slight technical difficulties on our end, but we are glad that you're here with us. We'll be back here tomorrow night again for another audience pick topic here on Facebook Live. Good night, everybody.